favor, un fuerte aplauso para David.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Buenos días.
Buenos dias.
I can hear you.
Ah. Buenos dias. So I want to talk to you a little bit this morning about the Joomla platform and how it can be used for stuff other than a CMS or content management system. I am going to try to make this interesting so you stay awake, but it is a development level talk, so I want to go into some code and show you some specific examples. It's actually pretty exciting because it's something that a lot of the other content management systems that are out there are not doing. So we're doing something different, and it's quite exciting. It gives you a lot of power from a development standpoint to make your applications do a lot more than just having a website. So how many of you are familiar with this right here? Everyone should recognize this to some extent. This is a template from Joomla Shack. Yeah? Very pretty, very nice. This is what most people associate Joomla with. It's a CMS system. You can install a template and you can do your website content management system with Joomla. This is Joomla as well. This is a CRM. It is not a CMS. There is no content management system. There is no content. None of that is available here. But this is Joomla. This is a CRM system that we have written, that I've written. It's built on the Joomla platform, and it is not a CMS. It is a CRM. And there is no admin panel. There are no com web links, no modules. It is a completely unique application, but it uses Joomla. Command line interface. You can also use Joomla from a command line. So if you're familiar with writing things in terminal or at a DOS prompt, you can write applications using Joomla that you run direct from command line. So what is the Joomla platform? The Joomla platform, or framework, is a library of classes and functions originally developed for the use in the CMS. So if we were to look, let me talk for a second here. There is a terminology change that's beginning to take place. Originally, we referred to it as the Joomla platform. That is now becoming known as the Joomla framework. So a slight difference in the name, but the underlying concept remains the same. Basically, we're having a library of classes and functions and methods which you can use to build applications on top of. So you're not anymore tied to using the CMS. You can use just the underlying libraries, known as the framework, and write an application. So the framework, in essence, becomes more of a tool that you can use similar to Yi, CodeIgniter, Symfony, CakePHP, bunch of others, Laravel. How many of you are familiar with CodeIgniter, Symfony, Yi, frameworks like that? Okay, not very many. I didn't think that there would be a lot here that would be familiar with that because it is more developer focused. But basically, each of these is a set of library classes. It's a tool that you can use to rapidly develop applications for the web. These applications would be able to do all sorts of functionality, not necessarily just looking at content management, but looking more along the lines of, okay, a CRM or an e-commerce solution where you're not just installing a component, but you actually just have e-commerce and nothing else. A lot of web services things. So if you wanted to build an application where data was being pulled out from your Joomla database and then used in a specific mobile application or used in a different environment or even a desktop application, you don't have to have it being displayed within a content management system. So why use this framework? Why would you use a Joomla framework over top of or instead of a different framework, one of the other ones that's maybe been out a little bit longer? From personal experience, I can speak that writing code in Joomla, once you are used to how that functions and how those classes and methods are used, it becomes very second nature. It becomes very easy to do so. So if you can now develop full applications, not just components, but applications, and use the same knowledge that you already have built up with Joomla as a CMS, it makes your job easier as a developer. So you're able to also take a component that you have written and you can explore the possibility of turning that into a standalone application. So at that point, you're able to broaden your user base beyond just people that use Joomla as a CMS and want to install your component. If you were to build a framework application, you can reuse your code and refactor it, release it as a standalone application, and target a much broader market. They don't have to have Joomla. They don't even have to know what Joomla is to be able to run your application. So at that point, you have a lot of benefit to using the Joomla framework because it is a tool that you're familiar with already, and you can use the code that you already have written and a style that you're familiar with and the classes that you already know. So how do you use the Joomla framework? The first step that I say is to review the library of the files that are available. So if you go into your Joomla root and you navigate to the libraries folder, you will see a folder there called Joomla. That folder has all of the necessary classes and methods and functions that are available. If you look in the CMS release, so when you download Joomla CMS, if you look in the libraries folder, you'll see a folder called Joomla, and that's where all these classes live. If you're writing an application, you're not using any of that Joomla CMS installation, you're only using that Joomla libraries folder. It's important to know that as the framework moves forward here, we're actually going to be releasing a different version, and I can talk about that in a second here. With the new version of the framework that's being released here shortly, we're actually taking on some pretty large items, which are really fantastically awesome because it puts us on a very even playing field with these other frameworks, specifically terms like PSR0, Composer, and Packagist. How many people are familiar with namespacing and what that means? Okay. Just to give you a real generic example, namespacing allows us to use a class that's unique to a specific instance in code. So if, for example, Paul would have an application and he uses a function or a class, and let's say his class is called user. Okay, so he has a user class in his set of libraries, and I may have a user class in my set of libraries, and they're named the same. There can be a conflict there because the application won't know which one to load. So with namespacing, what it does is you tell the application which one you're using. And so we can still keep the same name, so I can have David/user and Paul/user. And so then I can namespace it, so I can separate it out based on which vendor, which source I'm using, and then I can call that class and instantiate that class in my code. Composer is a tool that's commonly used these days with frameworks. It's getcomposer.org, and basically what it does is it shows all the different packages. It doesn't manage the packages necessarily. Packagist handles that. And basically what we're saying is, okay, if you look in that libraries folder as it is right now in the Joomla CMS, and you see the Joomla folder, inside there you'll see different subfolders that represent different classes. So maybe session or user or database. Each of those is technically a package. Okay, it's a unique little piece of code. So what we're doing with the framework now is I can say, okay, I want to use the Joomla package for user, and I want to use Paul's package for session, and maybe David's package for database. So you can mix and match these packages and basically use Joomla along with other frameworks. So it's a fantastic opportunity for us to get Joomla more utilized by mainstream developers that maybe would not normally use the Joomla framework or even experience the Joomla CMS. So that's kind of a quick rundown of the Joomla framework. One of the exciting things that we've kind of done lately here, and I've had the opportunity to be involved with, is putting together what we're calling JACs. So JACS or JACs. It's Joomla Application Control Scripts. And I've put the GitHub repository here so you can go and look at it. But it's extremely exciting because what we do is you have a local file that you would put on your machine, and then you have a list of servers. And then on the servers, in the libraries folder, you would have a new folder called scripts. And in the scripts folder, you can have as many files as you want. And each file is a standalone application or a framework application. And then what you can do is from your command line is you can run that script on the remote server without ever having to go to that site. So here's an example. They're single file Joomla platform or Joomla framework applications. They run on a remote server, and you run them from a local command line interface. So for example, you may have a task or a single file application that says take offline. And that application may simply take the site offline. Or backup, which may take a backup of all the files, copy a copy of the database out, and zip it all up for you. So basically then what you could do is from your local machine, you could take an entire group of sites that you manage offline without having to log into the admin panel of each individual site and say set offline, and then log out, and then log into the next one and set offline. You could do it all from a command line. And I was working a little bit yesterday with Marinella, and she was telling me that she was working on one of these. I didn't get a chance to see you before I got up here, so I was wishing I could see it beforehand. But last year, she put together a fantastic application in one day, right? How long? In a few hours. Right, so it's extremely easy to use, and what an excellent example. Last year she put them together. Was it Picasa or Flickr? So in case you couldn't hear that, she had written an application on the Joomla platform that would log in to your Picasa account and grab your images and display them on your mobile website. That's pretty amazing, and she did it in just a couple of hours at the event here last year. And then yesterday we had a chance to talk about JACs and about the opportunities that here, and she was actually working on one that she told me would log into the system, take all the user emails, and send out an email to them, and all done from a command line interface on your local machine. And I can't wait to see it. I hope you show me this afternoon, because that's just phenomenal. And she's a great example of what can be done in a short period of time using the Joomla platform or the Joomla framework. So I can show you an example real quick if you're interested. Let me close this down and that. So if I look in my local machine, let's see if I can find it quickly here. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Ah, yes. Good, good. Okay. So this is the code that you can get from GitHub. You don't have to know what all this says because this is a bash script that runs on your local machine. But just to give you an overview real quick, so what I wrote here was an opportunity to get the site, an action, and a group. And then you can run a server action on that particular server or site that you specify. And then you would also have a server file and in the server file you simply specify each of your sites, your access to how you log into that through SSH, and then the path to where the scripts are located. So you can actually set up each site to have their scripts in a unique location. You don't have to have them all in the same across the board. And that's convenient, especially if you're looking at things where you want extra security so that someone couldn't guess where your scripts might be, even though they can't be run directly. Okay, they have to be run through an application instance. So if we look at okay, so here I have a site on my local machine here. Okay, so I can see the site is online. It's loading up. If I refresh the page, okay, it's working. I can go to my command line prompt. I can type in Jax and then tell it what site. In this case, the site is Ben's Guide. And the action, right now it says put online. I can say take offline. It will ask me for a password because I have not set up the SSH. And then it will tell me site is offline. So now if I come back here and I refresh, the site's offline. So I didn't have to log into the admin panel of this website, go into the system global configurations, and I didn't have to turn it off. Okay, great. But instead I could do it all from the command line, and I could take the site offline. And so now the beauty comes in is that I can actually do this to a group of sites. So if I had, let's say, 30 sites, and something happened, and for some reason I had to take all the sites offline, I can do that all from one command line interface. And I can type in that, but instead of putting a site, Ben's Guide, I could put group, and then group A, take offline. And when I hit enter, all the passwords already have all been stored because I have the SSH connection in place, and it would just come back with the sites are offline. And it took all the sites offline.
So, two questions on this. One is, does Jax only work for Joomla sites on remote servers?
It's a good question. The way that the scripts library is set up, so the question was, does Jax only work on Joomla remote servers? What Jax is on the remote side is a compilation of scripts. Each of those scripts is a Joomla application. So if I were to look at the code for one of those, which I can do right here. So here are the scripts. And again, this is on the URL that I had earlier in the slide. Here's the take offline script. So what it does is you'll notice, first of all, I make it be inside a Joomla application instance. It cannot be run directly. You can't navigate to the scripts folder and try to run that file. It won't work. So it's perfectly secure. It's inside an instance. Then what it's going to do is it's going to connect to the Joomla instance that it resides within. So it does require a remote Joomla site, because this script is basically going to control some functionality of the Joomla site it's associated with. So once it gets all the information, we have a class, take offline. This is the actual class that's going to be run, and it extends the Joomla application framework, in this case, the CLI version. And then we have one function, do execute. And inside that function, we open up the config, we find the offline value, and we set it to 1, which is technically what you're doing when you log into the admin panel and you're saying, take site offline. And then the last thing in the file, the thing that actually gets run, is it says, okay, start up a new JApplication command line interface, get the instance of take offline, which is the file, which is the class right above here that we defined, and we execute it or we run it. So the exact same way that we've done that with take offline, we can have another one that says put online. And again, because I have not stored this, now it says the site is online. And just like that, the site's back online. So that's maybe not as relevant an application as what you can do. Marinella's is a little more exciting, a little more robust in what you can do with it, and it gives you more ideas. I kind of like the backup one. I don't know if I have that one set up here. I didn't try it ahead of time, but I can say, and I am going to double check real quick and see if that's what I've called that one. So what I'll do is I'll go into my sites folder and I will look for Ben's guide. Okay, so this is my Joomla root. I'm going into the libraries folder because that's where I've defined it to be on this, and inside my scripts folder is where it's stored. Okay, so it's actually called backup site. So what I need to do here is actually use that for my function name. Okay. And this may fail miserably because I didn't test it. Okay, so it says exporting database, MySQL dump, collecting files, creating zip. So basically, I've written an application, and it's all in that one file, which says backup site. And in there, I run all these options. And then what it does is it's created a backup. It's stored it on the server in a folder that I've defined within my application. So hopefully now, if I go here, I have a folder here called backups. And now there is an 11.5 meg backup. What I've done is from a command line, I've remotely logged in to this machine, and I have created a backup of all the files and the database, zipped them all together, and stored them on the server. So now all of a sudden what I can do is I could set something up in a group where I have 100 sites, and I say action, backup site, group, whatever group that is, and when I hit enter, it's going to immediately on every single one of those 100 sites create a backup, store it in a zip file, and put it in the root or wherever I've defined. So just like that, I've been able to take a backup of all of my sites. So it's pretty powerful, it's pretty exciting, and there's a lot of opportunity for that. So this is a fun application of how you can use the Joomla framework. If you're interested, I have another option I can show you quickly. I travel a lot with Joomla Days. I love it. It's one of the perks of my position with Joomla is I get to meet new people and build relationships. And so I wrote a quick little application that if my internet is working here, I can show you. And this is a Joomla framework application. Okay, it looks nothing like Joomla, right? There's no content management system. There's nothing like that. But what I've got is each of the points that I visited, or some of the ones that I'll be visiting soon, will show up on the map. And I can click on one, load up the details, and there's a gallery of pictures. Those pictures are all being remotely pulled in from my Google Plus account. So I've got a full application that's built on the Joomla framework. It doesn't have any content management system. And what I was able to do is create a pretty cool opportunity to see exactly what's going on, where I have been, where I'm going to be, and it's all built on the Joomla framework, Joomla platform. So the possibilities of what you can build with Joomla are truly endless. There's so many opportunities, and it's such a fantastic system to build on because I can use tools that I already know. I already know how to code in Joomla. I can take those same functions, I can take that same knowledge, and I can rapidly create applications. This application I was able to get done in, I think, about 6 hours on a weekend. I thought this would be kind of cool. I'd like to show off where I've been, where I'm headed, and I think it'd be a good use case for how you can use the Joomla framework. So I would encourage you to dig more into the development side of things. That's really where my focus is, and that's really where I want to see how I can help people grow and get more involved. So if you have questions, definitely come and talk to me. I would absolutely love to answer your questions. As Paul mentioned, we have Guillermo and a couple others that have volunteered to translate. So if you feel like you would like to talk to me but you're a little bit nervous about it, please find one of them, Lionel or Guillermo, and come talk to me. And I would absolutely love to hear from you and just explore opportunities. So thank you very much for your time. Yeah. And any questions? If you have any questions, yes, Paul.
So, thank you. This is a question more that might apply to larger businesses and organizations that would have other systems that their business uses. Let's take the business example. Maybe they have an accounting system. Maybe that doesn't use MySQL for a database or any of the other databases that the Joomla CMS directly supports. Maybe they have other systems. They have a different customer relationship management system than the ones that are easy to tie in and integrate with Joomla. Maybe they have an inventory tracking system that was built years ago, and again on a different platform, different system. To what extent is the Joomla framework either able to directly out of the box or with custom development from a dedicated team of developers who understand how to tie things together, able to integrate, pull out data from some of those other systems and either display it on a internal company intranet website or on a public-facing internet website?
That's a great question, and in fact, I have a perfect use case of that. I was working with, I think he's in here. Yes. Yesterday, he approached me and he said, I have a need for Oracle database support, and the beauty of the Joomla framework is that we have those tools available for other database types. So we sat downstairs actually in a lab, and we determined after the setup, about an hour, maybe a little less than an hour, we were able to configure an application that remotely logged in to an Oracle database, retrieved information, and displayed it within Joomla. So just in a very short period of time, we were able to integrate into a different system, a completely different database, and use it within Joomla. So the framework is very nice in that regards because they have a lot of drivers and database drivers that are readily available. Oracle, MySQL, SQL Serve, Postgre, all of them are already built in. So you can actually take advantage of using any of those data types. So if you use other systems, you can use other database drivers within the Joomla framework and configure it to pull that information out. So yes, the Joomla framework is extremely robust because even though it itself may run primarily on MySQL, you can tie it very easily to other database types and pull information from a variety of systems and either display that in the CMS if you chose to use that, or directly in a third-party application. So you could build a web-based application, or you can use Joomla as a command line interface to grab data from a different database type and then use that in whatever instance you would choose to. So not even necessarily in a web-based interface, but maybe you want to pull that data back in to some other service. The beauty with Joomla, and one of the things that we're really focusing on even more heavily, is web services and how we can tie in using just the data without necessarily the HTML or the output that we're used to seeing in an HTML format. Maybe we just want the data itself, and we're going to let some other system handle how that's actually manipulated and used. So yeah, great question. Joomla framework is really fantastic at handling that integration. Other questions? Yes, Marinella.
I've worked with Yi before, and they have like a tool that helps you generate a bit of code. Like, for example, it will generate the model for you, right, according to your database, etc. Does Joomla have anything like that, the Joomla framework?
That's a fantastic question. And I think Yi, if I'm not mistaken, got a little bit of the idea from Ruby on Rails with scaffolding. And so the whole idea was you could very easily from a one line generate an entire MVC model view controller with CRUD, create, read, update, delete access to that object without having to write anything besides one line. We're actually exploring how we can do that. The problem that might exist with that is it tends to sometimes promote lazy coding to where you just use what's been generated, and it may not be suitable or it may not be the most appropriate way to handle it for your use case. So it's a fine line between providing a tool that is beneficial and can be used easily while not making it something that is a crutch. In other words, using something that is promotes poor code, if that makes sense. So it's not in place yet, but I think it's something that's been discussed and figuring out what the best way to handle that is. Yes. Any other questions? Okay. Yes, Paul.
So we saw the JAX feature, which I think is a great one. You could also, if you didn't want to create groups and run the same command line command to trigger whatever your script was on a number of websites, you could also set up a cron job on one server, right, that would essentially do the same thing.
Yes, yeah, and that's a fantastic choice because maybe you want to have that backup that we did manually. Maybe you want to automate that. Well, you can actually set up a cron job to run that script application that's in your scripts folder on a particular time scale. So maybe every night at 2 a.m. it's going to automatically run that. So yes, we're showing a use case where you can run it from a command line on a local machine and access a remote server, but just as easily you can have a cron job set up to do that directly on the server, and you don't even have to mess with it at all. So yeah, the Joomla platform, the Joomla framework gives you a whole lot of opportunities to use those, in this case, one file applications, and do a tremendous amount. And obviously not everything with the framework is one file applications. The JAX is just one way of demonstrating stuff you can do. The CRM system that I've written is a massive file system, similar in many regards to the CMS. The map, the travel thing that I showed you a second ago, it's probably half dozen to a dozen pages, models, views, controllers that had to be configured and set up. So it's not that it has to be just a one file situation like JAX. It can be very robust, but can also be very small, and it can be set up to run automatically or manually. Yes.
So I want to now just make a comment to sort of build on that point, and I think that I hope that you're still interested, excited, happy to hear and learn about the Joomla platform, even if you're not a developer. And to me, the benefit for those of us who are not developers, who might not have the skills or want to learn the skills that David has and other developers to actually write that code. But to me, part of the importance of the Joomla framework is that, so I'm a site builder. I build Joomla websites. I do other work that's not for Joomla but for paid clients. But now with the emerging, growing, strengthening development and attention that's being paid to the Joomla framework, I have the ability to talk to clients, to potential clients who want to do more than just have a website. who want to be able to integrate with some of those larger enterprise level systems that are more complicated that you just can't do with a Joomla website and a handful of extensions that you pull off from the Joomla extensions directory. But today, maybe not today, but today I could talk to a client who has a massive warehouse with massive inventory control systems and has a massive problem about keeping track of that. From a system that was developed 10 years ago. And I might be able to talk to that client, understand their needs better, and say, this Joomla free open source software project has both a content management system that's one of the best in the world, and it also has a framework that can tie in with those systems and can help solve your problems for your customers, for your employees, et cetera, et cetera. Give me some time to build a team of developers who can write the code required to be able to solve that problem for you. And so to me, this is what really makes the Joomla framework special. One of the things that makes the Joomla framework special is it opens new doors for what Joomla can be used for and the problems that real world customers have, real world users have, and it opens doors for those of us who use Joomla professionally to talk to bigger clients with bigger projects and help to solve bigger problems. So don't let this go in one ear and out the other from an American cliche standpoint. If you're not a developer, if you don't have the coding skills to do it, recognize that part of the power of the project is to make tools like this available. And when we can connect with others in the community who have those skills, then everybody gets to grow, everybody gets to move further along in the things that they're good at. So this is really important stuff. Thanks, David, for sharing.
Yeah, and that's what's so exciting. I mean, I love to hear that because like yesterday when I was able to work on the Oracle database setup, we build these abstract things knowing that they can be used. But there's nothing as exciting as seeing people use them and take advantage of them to promote their business. I am thrilled to see how you can take these tools and make your business better and how you can use it to benefit you. That's what's exciting, and that's really one of the things that drives me, and I'm sure drives many of the developers that work on Joomla, is we want to create tools that make your lives easier. You don't even have to know particularly how it was written or how to use it. But if you can make it so that it's effective for your business, that's awesome. And that's one of the things that I just love. Yes.
I also deal with a lot of clients who have many systems installed in their companies. And I'm looking at the Joomla CLI right now. And it's something that can help us, for example, us developers. My customers are always saying, oh, I need a set of reports, but I don't want to have to take them out every day. I would like them emailed to me, right? So I can easily see this, logging into the database, taking out a set of reports, and emailing them to specific people in the company, right? So I see this as having great potential to helping all these people, right?
Yes,
and to helping us code a little faster.
Yes.
Right? So I'm just giving you more ideas on how you can help your clients, right? If they tell you, well, I need these reports, or I need to have, something done on the database or data input into the database, we can easily do this using the Joomla platform. Right?
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. So I think my time is up. I do also want to mention that I have these super cool Joomla stickers. So if you want a Joomla sticker, you just have to come see me and introduce yourself, and I will give you a sticker. And we do have a Joomla flag around here somewhere. It's pretty exciting. If you have a chance to see it, it tries to... I help it visit as many Joomla days as I can possibly get it to. So last week it was in the Netherlands with me. Next week it's going to be in Bosnia with me. So if you have an opportunity to look at it, it's pretty cool. Every event gets to sign it, so we're actually going to have someone here sign it as well. But yeah, just some exciting little tools. And if you want a sticker, come see me.